So today we're going to talk about the age-old question: should you buy or should you rent a home in Tacoma, Washington? My name is Gervon Simon. I'm a local real estate agent and real estate expert here in Tacoma, Washington area, and I'm here to answer that question for you. We go through pros and cons of whether you should buy or whether you should rent here in Tacoma, and I'm always going to favor buying, but for some people it doesn't make sense, and I'm here to talk about that today. So this is a question that a lot of people struggle with, and it's not an easy question to answer, especially if you've never purchased a home before. Now, I'm just going to be flat out honest. I am 100% an advocate for people buying a home because what it does for a family in terms of their long-term wealth provides many more opportunities and allows you to build generational wealth that you can pass on down to future generations. So with that being said, I'm also aware that not everybody can financially purchase a home. And I do believe in waiting when it's the right time for you. Long term, that should always be somebody's goal. But if it's not feasible in the moment, it should be more so a matter of, okay, how are you going to get to the point to where you can purchase a home? So regardless, I do believe that every person in America, every adult in America or every family in America should own the home that they live in. And so I'm going to get into a little bit of the specifics about Tacoma and why it may be a good fit for you or maybe not. So before I get too deep into the subject, just want to remind you, my name is Gervon Simon. I'm a real estate agent here in Tacoma, Washington. I help people relocate all the time. They reach out to me all the time to relocate to the area. And this is something that I've been doing for quite a few years now, especially as a veteran and a former Army officer. I get a lot of people that relocate into the area for military reasons, but also if you're a civilian and not military affiliated, I help people do that as well. And I've helped people do that plenty of times in the area. Okay, so number one, you have to know where you're buying in Tacoma and understand the different neighborhoods. I'm never going to advocate for one neighborhood over another because I do believe that, there's great aspects of every neighborhood in Tacoma. However, understanding what's a better fit for you and your price point, your budget, your lifestyle, and all those different things will help you make an informed decision whenever it comes to whether you should buy or whether you should rent in Tacoma. And so I'm not going to go through the neighborhoods today, but I am going to just kind of discuss about some of the infrastructure in the area. So Tacoma is a little bit of an older city. A lot of homes are built before 1978. A lot of homes are built, there are homes that have been built, over 100 years ago. And so you have to understand that and understand what neighborhoods that you're going to buy in and what's the likelihood of you buying a home that's brand new or a home that's going to be a lot older and has, older home problems that you're going to just have to deal with because no home's ever going to be perfect. And so there aren't a ton of new developments in Tacoma proper. There are a few, but most of them are built in the outskirts or the suburbs of Tacoma or in University Place or different places like that. So if you're somebody who you don't really want to buy something that's an older home and deal with with issues that come with older homes, then maybe looking at something that's a little bit newer or renting so that you don't have to deal with it if you're not going to be here in Tacoma for a long period of time. That might be a better option for you in that case. But if you are wanting to purchase and you want a newer home, there are definitely options, and there are a lot of one-off new developments in the area. Like somebody bought a single lot in the middle of an established neighborhood and built a new construction home. There's a lot of that. But if you're looking for a new community or development, they're gonna be few and far between. However, there are places on the outskirts of Tacoma that I can kind of point you in a direction towards, and there are a lot more options if you're willing and open to living outside of Tacoma city limits. Another aspect to consider if you're gonna buy, and I'm just gonna touch on this quickly, is that Tacoma is a secondary market or secondary city to Seattle. It is its own city and it has its own culture and own vibe and all that good stuff, but it is a secondary city to Seattle. So what that means is that it actually has, in my opinion, a lot more room to grow in terms of long-term equity. I don't think it'll ever be as expensive as Seattle or catch up to Seattle's prices because the city's just not set up and the infrastructure isn't here for that, and it's never going to be that big. However, I do believe that long-term wise, in terms of percentages and how much things appreciate, you'll probably be able to have a little bit more appreciation in the long run in a place like Tacoma than Seattle. And also your dollar goes further. So the cost of living in Tacoma versus Seattle is just a little bit more, it's just a little lower and it's cheaper. So what you pay is going to get you a little bit more than what it would be in Seattle. So owning versus renting, one thing that I always bring to people's attention, especially whenever they talk about interest rates being higher, like the environment we're in right now and all that stuff is, if you're going to pay 5 or 6% interest rate. I hear people say all the time, oh, I might as well rent. Well, here's the thing about renting versus buying. When you rent, you're paying 100% interest. You never get any of that money back. But whenever you're buying, you're paying a mortgage. You obviously you have a fixed interest rate and you're paying down your principal over time and building equity in the property. Again, that's just one lens to look at it through, but it's just something I always bring up. If you are very budget conscious, I definitely recommend renting. And the reason is because when you're looking at homes in this area, they're not necessarily cheap. There aren't a ton of options under 400,000 that don't include HOA fees or other things that essentially make it very similar to you paying. If you're trying to save money and really live on a budget, then renting and getting in with either a landlord who has a low mortgage and doesn't charge true market rent, or you go into an apartment where they have the economies of scale to charge less, but to fill all their vacancies, those are definitely good options for you. Or if you're just somebody who doesn't want to deal with any kind of maintenance, because the second that you sign on that dotted line and that deed gets recorded at the county, you become a homeowner, you are now responsible for your home. There's no calling your realtor and trying to have them negotiate something with the previous seller of the home. The person you bought the home from is never going to come back and fix something for you. I mean, maybe if you have some great negotiating skills or a great seller that does that out of the kindness of their heart, but the likelihood of that happening are very low. It's very slim. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to deal with it, renting makes sense. But again, long-term wealth, long-term building generational wealth, and from a long-term financial perspective, it doesn't always make sense. So what's the bottom line here? You have to do what makes sense for you. Again, I am an advocate for owning homes and owning property. Whether you're looking to build a rental portfolio, and I can touch on that if you'd like, or if you're just looking to own the home or homes that you live in over the course of your life, then owning a home makes sense, and I am all for it. At the minimum, I think you should own the home that you live in. But whenever it comes to renting, again, if you're not financially ready or capable of purchasing, obviously renting is a good option. And there are some affordable options in the Tacoma area, probably more affordable than Seattle and other places. But if you can financially purchase and you're on the edge, I always lean towards buying, because you can always refinance your interest rate if it's too high, or you can sell and build equity. There are a ton of advantages, and that's just where I stand on things. And naturally, as I own properties and I'm a realtor. So again, this is Gervon Simon. I'm a real estate agent here in Tacoma, Washington. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love for you to subscribe.